Welcome folks at Tip of the Week number 10. Woohoo! Party! So this lesson is going to be really interesting for those who play a lot of open chords. So probably all of you. I'm going to talk about decorating your chords in such a manner that it will sound so much more interesting and much more fun to play. Often the guitar is used to support a vocalist or a melody, but no one tells us we have to play open, boring chords. We can easily enliven them a little bit, and a very pleasant way of doing that is just adding some hammer-ons or pull-offs. In this lesson I'm going to use a very cheesy progression, which is seen a lot in modern pop music as a G chord, an E minor chord, a C and a D. Yeah, those chords are widely used in pop music, so if you get those down you can use them a lot. So the key of this lesson is finding out what notes sound good in what chord and how to play it. So what finger can you use to play those notes? This progression is in the key of G major, so we can pick every note in the scale of G major. And to make it even a little bit more facile, we're using only notes from the G major pentatonic scale. So all these little dots will, to a certain degree, sound good in every chord we're gonna play, because every chord we're playing is in the key of G major, and all those notes are in that key. So every note can be played in every chord we're gonna play. But how is it possible? Does it not change the chord we're holding? So for instance, I'm picking a G chord. If I fret a different note with it, won't the chords change? Well, maybe if you play it for an entire bar, but what's important is you start on the G chord. So the listener will hear the G chord, and then you can change it to whatever you like. You can see it as playing a melody on top of the chord, but this time you are the chord and the melody at the same time. It's also wise at this time, when you're just trying this out, to leave your root note at the fret at all times, because then the chord will always be perceived as being a G chord. Let's take an example. Let's go to the G chord. The index finger is not that necessary. When you're leaving it out of the chord, the A string gets muted. So we don't hear an open A string, but we mute the string, and it doesn't sound bad at all. And then your index finger can play all the notes from the scale. So for instance, on the third string, you can play fret number 2 and an open string. Well, the open string is from the chord already, so let's try out fret number 2. So first play a G, and then on the third string, you hammer on from an open string to fret number 2. And then you pull off again. That sounds very nice. And then you can do exactly the same on the fourth string, on the D string. And then probably on the fifth string as well. So when you play that in a row, doesn't that sound lovely? So on the second string you can do exactly the same, but then you need to play fret number 3. See the box? So there are some options you can do in the G chord. So the next chord is going to be an E minor chord. So all the notes from that box, and note that that box is the same box as the E minor pentatonic scale. The G major pentatonic scale and the E minor pentatonic scale use exactly the same notes. So in E minor, it's the same story. All those notes sound really good with this chord. So, some examples. Probably the third fret on the second string would be a good idea. And also hammering on the two notes you have already fretted. So from an open string to a fret 2 on the fourth string, the D string. And when you're strumming the chord, you have to emphasize that string, because you will hear the hammering on really good. And now on the fifth string you can do the same. So on every string, every note, every fret from the box is possible and sounds really good. C chord, this is a really interesting one. So what note can be removed and still keep it a C chord? So what happens a lot is the middle finger on the 3rd and on the 4th string, fret 2 and fret 2 and the open strings. So yeah, so on the 3rd string from 0 to 2, hammering on, and on the 4th string as well. So your pinky is free to do whatever it likes as well. So the 3rd fret on the 1st string, for example. And the 3rd fret on the 2nd string. It's a very nice way of playing all the notes to a C chord. And you can also remove your index finger. So it becomes a C major 7. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. So the 4th chord in the progression is the D chord. So an open 1st string, for example. This is heard a lot. Officially it's a D sus2 and it resolves to a D. And a D sus4 is beautiful as well. 4th fret on the 1st string. 2, fret 2. And also, which is good to hammer on your index finger. And I'm only using those notes from that shape. So it's really easy to make it so much more interesting. Yeah, and once you do it a lot, you really get handy in using the notes and remembering what fingers are free to do everything you want to do. You can always make your own progression and check out what notes sound good in that key. So if you're starting on a C, you have to look for the C pentatonic major scale, and every chord in that progression can use those notes as well. So note that the key of G is very good for using this trick because we've got lots of open strings in that scale. If you go to the key of E, for example, it gets a little bit more tricky because the 3rd string and the 4th string, they don't sound good open in the key of E major. It gets a little bit bluesy, which is nice as well, but not if you're playing a pop song in the key of E. So in the key of E, you can, for instance, use the bottom 2 strings, fret 2 and fret 2, and fret 2 on the 3rd string as well. And this, my friends, is the end of tip of the week number 10, and I hope it gets you through the week. Have fun practicing and make sure to do it a lot because you will definitely get better. See you next week with another tip of the week video. Bye bye. Into tip number 3. Your index finger needs to be straight. 4. Play them. You won't get better by watching videos. Tip 5. First you have to learn the notes of the song. If you've got the notes